So the card Bait Doll is a magic card from Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in 2004 when it came out, it was in Labyrinth of Nightmare. And yeah, I said magic card because when it came out, it was actually still magic card, not spell cards, because of whatever the hell happened behind the scenes. So I want to talk about this card because back in my Schoolyard meta, it was played a lot. It was actually one of my favorite cards of all times, and I would always put it in one of my decks. So if you don't know, let me let you know what the card actually did. Its original effect read as following: force the activation of one face-down trap card. If the timing of the activation of the trap card is incorrect, negate the effect and destroy it. If it's not a trap card, it is returned to its original position. After this card is activated, it is placed onto the deck, not the graveyard. Then the deck is shuffled. Or actually it says the deck is then shuffled. That's the actual wording of the card. Now I don't think I have my original copy because I probably quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Like 4 times in my lifetime. I recently came back in 2017 after Hurricane Maria, but I know I have a copy, but I just don't remember if it's an original copy or not. So Bait Doll was a really good card back in the day because it was a common from Labyrinth of Nightmare, and it was easy to get. It was easy to pull. Because back in high school when this card came out, I was in high school. Me and my friends, we really didn't have that much money to spend on cards. We could probably buy 1 or 2 packs a month or one structure deck. Some of us actually had, I think, Mystical Space Typhoons back in the day, but we didn't really have many of them. That and Mystical Space Typhoon, I believe, was limited for a time. So back row removal was not too common back in 2004. So Bait Doll was actually prime back row removal for a couple of reasons. First, the whole force the activation of one face down trap card. At least me and my friends, we would read and research the rules, so we knew that we didn't have to know it was a face down trap card to force its activation. We knew we could just target anything in the back row because, you know, we were smart. We never went through the whole making up effects on the fly or summoning without tributes. We actually read the rules and we actually learned the rules to play this damn game. Then it says if the timing of the activation of the trap card is incorrect, negate the effect and destroy it. Now it's funny because Bait Doll not only was back row removal, but it was reconnaissance because you could learn about what your opponent had. The worst case scenario, you would activate something like Spelljammer or Magic Jammer or Magic Drain, and you would lose the Bait Doll because you would force the activation of the counter trap card, and you would force it to negate Bait Doll and destroy it. Or at least I'm pretty sure that's how it handled those type of trap cards back in the day. But if the activation was wrong, like a Magic Cylinder, it would destroy it and you would save yourself a lot. So it came in very clutch. Now when I say reconnaissance, is sometimes your opponent would try to bait you, or they would try to bluff you, setting down face down spell cards, or they could be actual quick play spell cards or MSTs that they had in the background. You would target them and you would actually learn what your opponent had in the back row. So that's why it was actually good for reconnaissance. I believe back in the day when I was in high school, I would actually run 2 Bait Dolls in my deck. I would always try to keep a balance between regular beatdown monsters and back row removals and monster removals. I would try to keep it all very balanced, so I would never have too much of something. So I believe back in the day my decks would always have 2 Bait Dolls, 1 MST and 1 Dust Tornado. Likewise, I would have 4 different types of monster removal in my 40 card deck. Because even though it was high school, none of us were really competitive. We would actually try to build our decks properly and balanced. So yeah, it was good for reconnaissance and for recursion because of its last effect, that it would be placed back into the deck and then shuffled. It was a really good card back in the day because you knew you would always have it in your deck unless it was destroyed. And the reason I say it came in clutch because it actually won me a couple of matches it actually won me a couple of duels because I would force the activation of a magic cylinder or a mirror wall and it would destroy it. But likewise, it would actually lose me a couple of duels because it would be used against me because, my friends used to have their own copies as well. And I would lose my own magic cylinder and other trap cards that I needed to win. Then back in the day, it was a really fun card to use. I'll be honest, I am very nostalgic about these old cards. Like I said, I came back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in 2017, and even though Link Summoning has grown on me and the new cards and the new mechanics have grown on me, with the exception of Pendulum Summoning, because I'm still not entirely sure how that works. Even though all those new mechanics have grown on me and I do enjoy them, I do miss how simplistic it was back in the day. The whole back and forth, you set a monster, I set something bigger than yours, I destroy it. You then set something that's bigger than mine and you destroy mine. And we kept on going back and forth until somebody lost all their life points. I'll be honest, that was fun. And, seeing what types of plays you could do with your bait dolls and your magic cylinders and your reinforcements of the armies and all that stuff. I actually did enjoy all that stuff. Not to say that today's meta is not fun, though I do have an issue with, right now in 2020, set my whole board with my 8 negates pass. You can't do anything so you just scoop. The whole set board pass scoop meta, it's not something I am too thrilled about. But with that said, I might actually eventually do a couple more videos about the cards that I remember having a lot of fun with or having my grievances with back in the high school meta, back in the schoolyard meta, as a lot of people I've heard call it online. Now, what I think would be very interesting would be a legacy archetype, like they did for Thunder Dragons. What do you think a bait doll archetype would look like? Like a bait doll archetype or a bait archetype, where all you do is force the activation of your opponent's cards. Of course, nothing like that could ever be meta or competitive because you would be forcing negates. Though I imagine it having its uses, maybe rogue at best, but something that forces activations and then goes back into the deck. Something like Spirit Monsters, but instead of going back to the hand, every single card just shuffles itself back to the deck. I mean, it's horrible because you will be losing so much advantage doing that. And technically, the Time Lords do something like that as well. Yeah, now that I think about it, the Time Lords do something like that as well. But they don't force activations, and I would love to see more cards that force activations. Now, I am not extremely versed in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I know I could go into Dueling Book or YGO Pro and search for cards that force activations, but I honestly don't feel like it right now. So if anybody in the comment section could let me know about different cards that just force activations on your opponent's card, I would love to read them and I would love to check them out. Because I am a sucker for gimmicky decks. I am a sucker for gimmicky cards. And that love honestly began with Bait Doll because Bait Doll is a gimmicky card. It's a very gimmicky card. And I have always loved to run gimmicky decks, even though they rarely ever win me any duels at all. So that's it for now. Until next time, I am the voice in the void, reminding you, I'm always watching.